Well, tonight is the big night. Former President Donald Trump set to make a major announcement tonight live from Mar-a-Lago. Many speculate he will say he's running for president in 2024. But is now the right time? And will the move be met with full Republican support? Sean Spicer worked closely with Trump as a former press secretary. He's also the co-host of Spicer & Co. right here on Newsmax. Sean, welcome. Thanks so much for coming on National Report this morning. What do you think Trump's going to say tonight?
Well, look, from what I've been told by sources close to the president, he's going to lay out a very clear vision of why he wants to seek make a third run at the presidency. The big question always, Emma, is does he stay on script? That's going to be the big question tonight. But there's no question that he's announcing that third run. OK, so then based on that announcement, a lot of people wonder, is now the time for it? Right? What's your read on that? And do you think it would help the Republicans right now? Of course, as Georgia, that Senate seat is still undecided. Absolutely. There's about three categories that I think people are in right now. People who just don't want President Trump to run, people who want him to run whenever he wants to run, and then people who want him to run but want him to wait. And I think there's a lot of people around him who are saying, hey, we want you to seek a third, go out, run again, that third run for the presidency. But we'd rather you wait until the Georgia race is over because we don't want to take any of the energy out of the room for what needs to be focused on Georgia. We don't want to take any of the fundraising away from Georgia. I think there's a lot of energy on that in that camp. I just don't think he cares. So it's moving forward. The announcement's going. The media has been invited. Newsmax is going to carry it tonight at 9. The ship has sailed on whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea. It's happening tonight at 9 o'clock. And then the question is, what does he do in the days, in the weeks after this to keep that focus maybe on Georgia and say, hey, I wanted to make the announcement. I want to start putting the infrastructure together, maybe raising some money, but I want to keep that focus on Georgia so that Republicans get a 50-50 tie in the Senate.
Right. Of course, a follow-up question would be, what would a Trump 2024 ticket look like? Who might it include as a VP pick? Mike Pence has recently spoken to news organizations. He's got a new book out. But here's what he had to say about a Trump 2024 run. Let's listen.
I think that's up to the American people. But I think we'll have better choices in the future. You know, the people of this country actually get along pretty well once you get out of politics. And I think they want to see their national leaders start to reflect that same compassion and generosity of spirit.
You know, Sean, I realize he didn't mention names in that clip, but is he alluding to someone else as a contender against Trump?
Yeah, I think there's no question that Mike Pence, he was asked in that same interview whether he was running, and he said, they're going to prayerfully consider it. There's no question that I think they're probably a bit further along than that. There's no question that Pence is going to launch his own 2024 campaign. I also think, to your first question, there's no question that Pence is out of the running to be the running mate again. I asked Trump the other night when he talked to us on Spicer & Company whether he was considering Kari Lake. That was before the race was called, and there was an assumption that she would be the next governor of Arizona. At that time, Trump said that he really liked Kari Lake, that he was someone that she would consider. And who knows, maybe she still is. But I think look to female governors, female members of Congress. I think that's where he's focused right now.
All right. We will wait and see what happens again tonight. Sean Spicer, thanks for joining us with your prediction. Of course, you can watch.
See you tonight.
We will see you. Be sure to tune in to Spicer & Co. It airs weekdays, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on Newsmax. Great analysis for that show. And again, the programming reminder for you, Newsmax is going to have live coverage of that big announcement tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Stay tuned for that.